Cool. Let me move this so I don't trip, because that could happen. No, it's good. I'm good. All right. I just want to look at you all because this is really special. I am so honored to be here with you tonight. As I prepared my story over the last several months, I was continuously reminded of the strength and bravery it takes a woman to walk into motherhood. It's kind of a big deal. My own journey into motherhood began at the vibrant age of 12. It's not what you're thinking. Our church had a guest speaker come and talk about adoption. As he spoke, little flyers were passed down each row. I could not take my eyes off the two babies pictured on the front of those flyers. And in that mystical moment, my heart confirmed that adoption would be part of my story someday. I carefully tucked the little flyer into my journal and carried this token with me into adulthood. I was 20 years old when I met my soon-to-be husband. It had been far too long since I checked my email, and with a sense of urgency, I went to the nearest coffee shop to find the internet. Because yes, you had to find the internet back then. I looked across the room for a spot to sit, and I caught his bluish gray eyes. I was surprised to see him there, having only met him the night before. Jared kindly smiled and waved me over. Time seemed to disappear that afternoon, and a year later, we got married. We both agreed that when the time felt right, we would have one biological baby and then adopt. For as long as Jared could remember, he had wanted to adopt too. What are the odds of that? 7 years passed, and infertility plagued us. Every miscarriage felt like a death to our dreams. Escaping into the outdoors was the only way to feel alive again. As we snuggled up in the back of Jared's truck to sleep, suddenly stars more numerous than we could count fell from the sky. In the midst of that magical meteor shower, we made one last wish for a baby. The following year, I became pregnant with a baby that my body would keep. But instead of excitement, I rode on waves of terror for the next 9 months. Oftentimes, Jared would read me a story from my childhood collection to calm my anxiety. One evening before bed, we read Alice in Bibleland, the story of Esther. Nearing the end of the story, Jared asked, "Do you like the name Estelle?" We quickly looked it up on our phones and discovered that Esther and Estelle both mean star. We were immediately reminded of that starlit night and the wish we had made. The name Estelle felt like a promise that our baby would be safe. After Estelle turned 1, we decided it would be best to start the adoption process. We felt eager to complete our family and sincerely hoped that adopting would be easier than trying to get pregnant. Finishing a home study was our first step. This process took 3 long months and included countless background checks, multiple home visits from a social worker, trainings, medical evaluations, and a full disclosure of our finances. It was invasive and overwhelming, but understandably necessary. Once this was completed, we searched for an agency out of the hundreds of them across the country. You guys, I can't even pick a flavor of gum, so just saying. We decided it would be best to have an adoption consultant. This was a middleman to help us navigate the process. The consultant's job was to send us birth mother cases that they had received from various agencies across the country. After reading the case, we would have a few days to decide, and then we would submit our profile. And then the waiting game would begin. Would the birth mother choose our family? After a few months of seeing cases, we were chosen by a birth mom in Kansas named Jody. There were a lot of things about this match that made us uncomfortable, like the fact that the baby wasn't due for 5 more months, leaving plenty of time for about 1 million things to go wrong. However, we really liked Jody, and it felt like such an honor to be chosen to parent her child. As the due date approached, it was getting harder for me to ignore Jody's weird interactions and lack of communication. I tried to voice my concerns, but they were always dismissed by the agency. Each time that happened, I lost trust in my intuition, that sacred part of myself that I have always been able to rely on. In July, a nurse from the hospital in Kansas called us. The baby had come a few weeks early. We waited for Jody to reveal her secret, but she never did. After her release from the hospital, Jody and the baby disappeared. A police report was filed, and the case was labeled adoption fraud. We never got to hold the baby we anxiously waited for, and there was nothing we could do to get back the $20,000 we lost in medical expenses and agency fees. We grieved for a few months, and then found the strength and financial resources to try again. This time around, we said yes to over 30 cases, never getting chosen. After a year of this, confusion, hopelessness, and insomnia plagued me. It was 2 a.m. I had woken up multiple times, covered in sweat. My heart racing so fast it felt like it would fly right out of my chest. After a few deep breathing exercises and meditations that did absolutely nothing for me, I went into the spare bedroom where Jared was sleeping. He held my sobbing, shaking body as I told him I was ready to be done with adoption. He agreed. I had hoped that I would feel a sense of relief after ending our contract with the adoption consultants, but instead, I felt a mixture of anger and sadness. I had dreamt about adopting a baby since I was 12, and I still had a little flyer tucked away in my journal to prove it. However, finding our baby did not seem like a possibility anymore, and it was me who walked away. A month later, Estelle and I sang along to Frozen 2 as I heated up her hot dog with a side of grapes. Yes, I feed her hot dogs almost daily. All of a sudden, Adoption Choices of Kansas flashed through my mind. I could clearly see the font design and color of their logo. We had just presented our profile to them a few months prior. I tried to fight away the urge to call them, but I couldn't. My curiosity got the best of me, as it always does. Heather answered the phone. She remembered us and quickly began telling me about a baby girl that had just been born. Because of the drug exposure, they didn't have enough families willing to adopt her. I nervously called Jared and asked what we should do. We were both sure this was our baby. It was just too coincidental to think otherwise. 3 excruciatingly long days later, Heather called us back to give us the news. The birth mom had chosen another family. We hung up the phone, stared at each other in disbelief, and choked back the sorrow rising from deep within ourselves. We regretted every thought we ever had about adoption. Exactly 3 weeks later, on July 15th of last year, Heather contacted me again, which was super annoying at that point. She emailed me a case almost identical to the one we had just seen, except it was in Oklahoma. The birth mom had no prior medical care and tested positive for meth and numerous STDs. If this baby wasn't placed with the family, social services would take her, and she would become another number in the foster system. Right, that cry wasn't as bad as it has been in the past. The ugly cry thing, I do that too. I will never forget the night I met our baby girl. She was laying in the NICU with cords hooked up all over her body. And she had a black eye mask on to protect her eyes from the bright lights treating her bilirubin. And you know what the very first thought I had was, she has on a black eye mask, just like the one I sleep with every night. This has to be destiny. Then I noticed her full head of dark hair. Estelle was born with a full head of dark hair, and I could not believe I was staring at a baby that looked exactly like one I could have given birth to. However, what I saw next completely took my breath away. Above her bassinet was written, "Baby Girl Lucy." At the hospital, babies are identified by the birth mom's last name. Jared and I had always loved the name Lucy and had given it to the second baby I miscarried. Just like the divine had named Estelle, my second daughter was also given a name as a promise that she would be safe. It wasn't until we returned back to Montana that I realized how much I would need this promise. Lucy had 4 potential birth dads who still needed to sign their rights away, and it would be another 7 months until her adoption finalized. During this time, fear that my precious baby would be taken away plagued me, and I experienced an array of hormonal changes that I was completely unprepared for. My breasts were tender and swollen. all the time. I bled every other week for 6 months. I still have no idea what that was about. My sleeping issues compounded, and I struggled with the same postpartum depression that I had after giving birth to Estelle. Despite the fact that I did not birth this baby, my body sure thought I had. It was amazing and incredibly inconvenient, like dark night of the soul inconvenient. This week, it will be exactly a year from the night I met our baby girl. As I stand with you on this stage today, I cannot think of a more perfect way to end the final chapter of my journey into motherhood. I am happy to report that I am out of the hormonal trenches, as much as a woman can be, and time has done most of its magic to heal the heartbreak. And although my battle with insomnia still rages on, I have learned to navigate this challenge until the answers I need come. I am stronger than I ever thought possible. My intuition can be trusted, and I will not take no for an answer. Every time a door was slammed in my face, I cried my eyes out, grieved for days, and then I did what every woman I know does. I tried again. I don't know what dream you're waiting to be fulfilled, or what dark night of the soul you are in, but I do know that your story is still being written, and you get to be the author. What do you want to say? Thanks.